Join Louisiana Right to Life in protecting the vulnerable as we share pro-life stories, insights, and news from the Pelican State. Welcome to the Pro-Life Pod.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Pro-Life Pod. I'm Erica Enzina, Policy Director of Louisiana Right to Life, and your hostess on the Pro-Life Pod today. And I have my friend Dustin Bertrand, who is going to share with us all about his powerful testimony, but then also how God has used what the devil meant for evil to do beautiful and wonderful things in his life. So I cannot wait.
Amen.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So Dustin, the first time, you probably don't remember this because you probably met so many people this way, but the first time I met you was during your RV tour a few years ago.
Okay, I thought I would have met you before that, but all right.
I had just started. At that point, I always say, I was just like a little flea on Ben Clapper's back, let me do something, let me do something. I was on fire. I was like, I have to use my education and my experience to do something. So I came to the RV tour, very new in the movement and everything. Yeah. I had my kids with me, and I remember you being very delicate with your story in light of them being in the audience. And I was like, oh, no, don't hold back, But they remember you too. Yeah.
Obviously, I remember the RV tour, but the specifics of that encounter.
Oh, I'm sure not.
That whole 3 months was that was a unique time in my life. It was about almost 2 months living in an RV, traveling all across Louisiana, sleeping in parking lots, churches, gas stations, campgrounds, side of the roads with 18-wheeler trucks. That was cool, neat, but it was fast-paced.
I bet.
Yeah.
Literally life on the road.
Yeah. First time I've ever done that. Drove an RV. I've never drove an RV. I never even owned a truck, really. I had a truck for 6 months and totaled it.
Oh my gosh.
So I've always drove Honda Accords, Corollas.
And an RV. Oh my gosh, that's I'm like that too. I have a small SUV and I like it. I have a ton of kids. They're all packed in like sardines, but I like being able to maneuver. Yeah. So I cannot imagine navigating an RV.
I tell Ben this, the first week was in New Orleans.
Oh my gosh.
Ben, what are we doing?
Trial by fire.
I said, I've never drove something like this. And in New Orleans, are you insane?
Oh my gosh. No, well, yeah, it's all uphill from there. I mean, all downhill from there. You know,
if you can get through New Orleans, correct. I said, once I get through New Orleans for a week, ain't nothing I can't do now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's funny. Okay, so I guess we should just dive right into that. Tell us, what were you doing in the RV? What were you going around in?
So that was 3 years ago, 2023? About
maybe
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Ben emailed me one morning, day, whatever you want to call it. He said, hey, man, I got an idea. What you think about you sharing your story all over Louisiana? I said, well, that's great. He said, but no, you got to live in an RV. And you got to go to 80 sites in 40 days or 50 days. And we'll pay you, obviously, but you will be gone. And I was like, yeah. I mean, to be honest, as a evangelist or a speaker, I've always had this desire to travel and and integrate in the audiences and communities and crowds and share the, for me, truth of Jesus Christ and stuff like that. But so that's always been a vision of mine. And so to do this for the pro-life world, to me, it's just an indirect way to share the truth of Jesus Christ in just a different way. And so I was like, yeah, let's do this. I mean, I'm single, not married, don't have kids. I would love to. And we just kind of, I don't know, he had a team. I guess you were part of the team, right? Y'all put together this 40, 50-day RV tour, a pro-life RV tour where I shared my testimony. And I also helped teach about pro-life values and principles all over.
Yeah. And your testimony, your experience, and both what you've gone through and what you share with everybody is so vital.
Yeah.
It's not without giving away, but it's so vital to what we do because, the very situation that it arose from is what is used to justify stripping the dignity of life from so many. Okay, so tell us
my story.
Yeah, tell us your story.
I usually give this big old speech of I'll walk you into a story about a woman that changed my life. I always kind of say, look, I'm gonna tell you about a story who shared with me her testimony that changed the course of my life, right? But for the sake of the podcast and time, I'm not gonna share it that way. To make a long story short, in 2009, I was a sophomore in college. I was kind of having issues with my health. I was slowing down. I wasn't able to do the workouts that I wanted to do. I was part of the golf team at McNeese. And so they thought that, could have been like depression or anxiety, right? Because I wasn't with my family. I was a mama's boy and a grandma's boy, but it wasn't that. I was born with 3 holes in my heart. 2 of them closed up. 1 of them remained, and it was a leak under my aortic valve. They called that a VSD, ventral septum defect.
Okay.
A lot of people have it. Some people call it like a murmur and whatnot.
Oh, a heart murmur. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard of
Mine
that.
might have been a little bit more serious than a heart murmur, but this is the doctor terminology I remember. And so when that happened, we had a decision to make. Either I have open heart surgery now in 2009 as a 19-year-old. I think I was 19 at that time. Or I can just wait. I can wait till it got worse, but I wouldn't be able to do the workouts and run and be as in shape that I like, in the way in which I wanted to. And so I was, all right, Mom, let's do this. I'm a big Rocky Balboa guy. I say Rocky Balboa because every time I think of like an underdog or coming from the bottom and working your way up, I think of my childhood memories of watching Rocky Balboa. And so I was like, you know what, I'll just recover. I'll get back stronger, whatever.
That's
know?
all there is
like,
to it.
You know what I mean? Like, it'll be fine. I've read many countless stories where athletes got an injury and came back better. So let's do it. But as that process unfolded, since I was 18 years old, I had to sign some of the insurance paperwork. And signing the insurance paperwork means you had to read the paperwork. And one of the lines had said, for the sake of insurance reason, there was a 3 to 5% chance that I would not survive the surgery. And for a 19-year-old, the fact that I could die was very new to me. I feel like Superman. Like, I'm fine. I'm not going to die. But when you read that on paper, it's a lot different. And so when I knew that I could possibly die or something could go wrong in this heart surgery, because in the heart surgery, they stopped my heart for about 3.5 hours, and I lived off a machine. And so I was like, man, so maybe something can go wrong. I told my mom, after realizing that, I'm like, hey, listen, we need to talk. And so I had a stepfather at the time who also blessed me with a younger brother, which he's an amazing guy. His name's Shay. He's a doctor in Birmingham, Alabama. He's an interventional radiologist. Just a little plug there. And I said, Mom, listen, there's something I need to know. I said, before I go into surgery, where was my dad before this dad? Why has that dad never been around? And so the next conversation I had with my mom pretty much changed the course of my life. My understanding of Jesus Christ, my understanding as a man and what I wanted to become in life, how I was going to do it, all the things, like they say now, all the things. And so my next conversation, like I say in my testimony, Abbeville, Louisiana, south of the airport, 306 Natasha, behind our pool house on a green picnic table over some gravel rocks next to a gray Lincoln owned by my grandmother, is where my conversation with my mom and my life changed. And she just started crying. And I was like, okay, this is going to be serious. And she's like, I really wish I could tell you the answer, but I really don't know. I remember just keep saying that. She's like, I just don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know. I'm like, okay, but do you know? You know? I was like,
tell me what you got.
Yeah, like, it's all good. And she just kind of walked me through a night. She was 25 years old. Her and her girlfriends were going out like many 25-year-old young ladies probably do now or will do this weekend, you know, and they went to this whatever place, club, hangout spot, and I believe it was in Lafayette, and something happened. She was there for about an hour, and that's all she remembers. Unfortunately, she woke up in this hotel building, this apartment building, whatever you want to call it. No one was around her when she woke up. Didn't know how she got there. Didn't know who brought her there. Her woman's intuition told her something probably happened. But if you've ever been from deep trauma like that, especially sexual trauma like that, you don't really react in a way which is logical and reasonable. That's why you hear about these Me Too movements that are years and decades after sexual assault, sexual abuse, whatever you want to call it. So she was like, you know, what kind of disoriented? And she remembers getting this lady. There was a lady somewhere outside the room to get her to like a phone back then. And so she called one of her friends to come pick her up. And she just kind of went on with her life. She kind of just like, I don't want to, you know.
Just kind of suppressed.
Yeah, let's just go forward, right? Many of us do that, right? And
absolutely.
And it's sad because our culture kind of tells us to do that, right? It tells men, like I tell all the young men, it tells us men, what men? Be Superman. Show no emotion. Make no connection. Don't be weak. Don't be soft, you know? And don't dare ask for directions. I like to throw in there for like the dads. And,
especially not from your wife.
Yeah, especially not from your wife, right? And then now it's telling our women, what? You know, you don't need a man. Buy your own house, your own car, your own clothes, right? It sucks, right? Because now we have men living on this island with all their fears, abandonments, abuses, vices, and all these things drowning by themselves. And now our culture is making our women do the same thing. The women are on their own little island, drowning in their vices, their abuses, their abandonments, their hurts, and their pains. And it sucks, right? Instead of coming together and being complementary and being vulnerable with each other, We compete, we compare, and we isolate. If you know anything about Christianity and the fight of good and evil, competing, comparing, and isolating are the taxes of Satan. There's nothing good can come from that. And so, sorry to get on that, but...
no, I love it. I want to ask you more questions about that too, so, but I don't want to interrupt your story.
Yeah, and so she kind of bought into that, like we all do maybe at some form or fashion in our lives. But however this stuff works, months, weeks later, she thought she was like, virus, sick, not so much. She was pregnant. And so that woman's intuition about that night kind of came face to face with it. Still not knowing who or anything like that, but knowing what happened. Yeah. And so if you haven't realized, right, 9 months later, my mom gave life to me. She fought the feelings of having me aborted. And if you still haven't put the pieces together, I was conceived through like date rape, My mom was drugged or whatever you want to call it. And her innocence and her humanity was taken from her against her will. And fortunately and unfortunately, in God's weird and permitting way, I was a fruit of it. And so I'm just thankful that she not just gave me life, but she stayed being my mom.
And that fruit has multiplied all over this state and all over this country. I mean, so how did you feel when you heard that?
People think I would be angry.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
That's everybody. Boy, you so mad at your dad? No, I wasn't angry. I was sad, because I love my mom.
Yeah.
She was my focus. She was never in my life, so why waste any feelings on that in that moment, So I was more sad, like just sorrowful. Yeah, for her, that someone could do that. Because I was at the age where I was dating. My friends were in relationships and people were trying to find love. And so I understood and all that. And that's what I was. I wasn't angry. Now the anger might have came up a little bit after that in the sense of wow, how can you do that to someone? But I'm an old soul, so I understood there was evil in the world, and not just evil, sometimes hurt people. So I understood that, not that it was right, but I had a understanding of evil at that time in my life. So my heart went more towards my mom. And then it went towards myself in the sense of can I do that? That's when the whole identity stuff started happening. Can I do that? Is that in me?
Yeah. This whole part of you that you don't...
That I don't know, but created me.
Yeah.
Had this capacity to do this to someone. Can I do that? Will I do that? Yeah. Not, it just was a thought, so yeah, and that's when I said, okay, Jesus, you turn, from ashes, you make things beautiful from, whatever. What's all this about? I've been hearing this my whole life. I'm 19. We're about to find out.
Did you have anybody, and I know that your mom and your grandmother were extremely instrumental in all of your path from beginning to end. But did you have anybody else that helped you work through that? Or was it kind of just a long process of...
Yeah, I think it was a village, call it the body of Christ, directly, indirectly, whatever word you want to use, right? My religion teacher, cool. You just never know when old emotions come. Miss Reba Broussard from Abbeville, Louisiana. Yeah, she's been a spiritual mom behind the scenes.
Does she know that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, because a former teacher...
Oh, yeah. So we have what we call porch talks. So that's post-high school and college. So whenever I need something or whatever, she's ready or whatever. It's porch talk, and we go catch up and we pray and we just... Yeah, she was been a big gift. And then many other... And this is when I teach, men, young boys, and even daughters, if their dad's not in their life, everybody hears about... And I hate to be... I know this is a pro-life podcast, but I can't help it. Oh. People talk about grace, God's grace, maybe you're out there, you're not a believer, but let me just help you understand what we mean when we talk about God's grace being actualized and tangible in our life. Because it answers your question, how did I get through this?
Yeah.
I'm going to say God's grace, and someone's like, well, what's that? I don't believe in God. I'll give you a tangible explanation. So my golf coach, Chad Massey, cool, what is going on today?
I can run out and find some tissues.
No, it's good. Yeah. My golf coach, Chad Massey, at 14 years old, he literally would pick me up. It's a man, he has a life. Would pick me up in the mornings, bring me to breakfast in Lafayette, and then he would go to work at a golf course in Lafayette and just let me play golf. And he would be my golf coach. Got to a point where that's hilarious. All right, Holy Spirit, chill out. He wouldn't even charge my mom or me.
Oh.
He'd give me a job. Not my father, a father figure. Basketball coach, Markeith Brown. He was the first man of ethnicity.
Yeah.
To mirror some of the things I was going through that people around me couldn't understand. As a man of biracial complexion, I guess that's biracial, whatever, in the South. I never forget one time my sophomore year, Coach Brown asked me one night, he said, "Who are you?" I said, "What?" He said, "Who are you?" He said, "Who are you?" He said, I'm asking you, who are you?" And he said, just, who are you, man? When you figure that out, things will start happening. I don't know why all these men did that.
It is remarkable.
And many others.
Yeah.
Many others that I have not mentioned. Wes Wilkerson, John Listy, so many others. Yeah. I'm not listening because for some reason I'm going to keep crying today. And I'm like, I'm not even that bit of a crying in a minute. And so that's grace, guys. What you lack, grace provides. And my stepfather, in his own unique way, I laugh because, if he listens or anybody that knows him listens, they understand in his own unique way. He left me with some toughness,
Okay.
He was a military guy and a cop. Y'all know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave me life toughness. So like all these father figures replaced my biological father. And that's
really
God.
cool.
And that's Christ. And that's grace. Yeah.
I'm thinking I don't know if you know that I was also adopted, but I was adopted by a biological aunt. So her side of the family, like I know and I relate to that being my family. But then every now and then it hits me like, oh my gosh, there's a whole other half that I know nothing about. I don't really care necessarily to know about. Not out of anger or anything. I have enough, but every now and then it hits me like there's a whole piece that I don't factor into. Like when you're talking about medical issues or your medical background and things that you might be prone to or not. But then also when I think about my adoptive dad. Like, gosh, what a guy, had, and in a way that some of these men did for you, he had no reason. He could have walked away from my adoptive mom who was like, hey, these 3 kids, they need a place. And he could have been like, peace out. I've raised my children. I'm good. Wish you the best, but I'm out. But, it never occurs to me that he's not my dad. And that is something so beautiful that, I know not everybody has that gift. And, that's part of God working in their lives in a different way. And so it is also kind of stunning, too, when I realized, like, oh, yeah, I forgot. We're not actually related.
You feel so connected. You feel they just have you, And
for whatever reason, they feel compelled to, like, take this kid to breakfast,
Like, over and over and over again. But I want to, I want to be honest. I don't want to sit here and give you this Christianese mentality where you think everything is great. Yeah. I got brothers and sisters I'll never meet. Does that suck? Absolutely. But I have enough. I can't explain it. Like, it's enough. Yeah, there's a side of family I'll never know. Some of them are probably really good people. Yeah, is there a mini death to that or sacrifice? Yeah, but I just believe there's enough in where God has where God has given provision. The provision is enough.
Yeah,
I
get that. I totally get that. Yeah,
but I don't want to sit here and tell people that that I just don't think about that other side and that everything's perfect and Jesus doesn't allow me to suffer ever. I'm not saying that either. Like you said, there's these moments where you kind of like
it hits at weird times.
It hits.
Yeah. As the kids say these days.
Yeah,
it hits.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so, you're trying to kind of kind of a little bit apologize for talking about, your belief in grace and God and everything. And I know that, of course, Louisiana Right to Life, we are not we're not affiliated with any particular faith or anything like that. But Hannah, my counterpart here in Acadiana, and I often talk about how, from a logical standpoint, and trying to explain our pro-life values and why it's fundamentally wrong. Sometimes we find it best to leave our faith out 100%. Of it. But where it gets really hard is when in these moments of suffering, and people will say like, how can you inflict that kind of suffering, or not that we inflict that suffering on anybody, but how can you be okay with the infliction of that type of suffering on someone else? And that's not it at all. But I think that our faith helps us to confront that suffering and to realize, like you kind of said, the beauty that comes from the ashes, and that the suffering is kind of part of the journey. That's a hard thing to explain to someone who's not faithful.
Yeah, like, but that's it. Like, so like, yeah, I'm not just pro-life because of my faith. I'm pro-life for some logical, very reasonable explanations, right? Like biology and science would say that the clump of cells in the woman's body is not her own. It's not like a thumb or a fingernail or a piece of hair. Like, it's a whole different type of DNA.
Yeah.
So if it's a human DNA, humanity deserves a certain type of dignity, value, and respect, and AKA protection. Like, I don't need Jesus Christ to make me believe that. I believe in my humanity as a race. That needs to be protected. So we can continue to survive as a human race. You know, you can't continue to grow if you don't want to give humanity life. You know, new technologies, new beliefs, new visions, new dreams. People need to be born to have those new technologies, new beliefs, new dreams. And so, like, boom, right? Just for that in general, right? But yeah, for someone that doesn't have faith, they don't have an answering for suffering. So every time suffering comes up, you have to try to do something in your humanity to remove it. But God says there's a line to that.
Yeah.
That there's a line your humanity can't cross. And sometimes when you can't cross that line, there will be some suffering. But me and you would say, we got the answer for suffering. He defeated death, sin, and the flesh. You know, like, we have an answer to that suffering. And while we try and can stop at that line, because we know there's a reward from this suffering. Like, this suffering at the end of the day does not win for us, right? So we can, in a way, accept some amount of suffering.
Yeah.
But if you don't have faith, you don't want suffering at all.
No.
Like, you don't want the cross. You don't want that from ashes to beauty. You just want beauty. Not all people. I'm just saying,
frankly,
it's hard for us to.
I kind of don't want it either way.
Exactly. Even men, you kind of don't want it. We just surrendered to it, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, like, there is a chasm and there's a gap. But, like, I just hope people, as I explained it, I hope you can understand, like, why we stop where you may go a step further.
Yeah.
Because we believe there's something more beyond that suffering that's going to not just affect us in this life, but in the one to come.
So I have a question. No, absolutely. Yeah. One question that I have is that when you share your testimony, and you share your testimony to young people, to middle-aged people, to people of all backgrounds and areas, right? Do you ever have people come up to you afterward and say, like, same?
Say what you guys say. I don't know what you want to say.
Same, like, me too. Or like, for example, we were in Lake Charles this past week for the March for Life there, and you know Amber Dubois, and she spoke there, and every time I've seen her speak, people just kind of flock to her afterward, and I noticed that's what they say, like, you gave me so much hope, or my story's not quite the same, but it's similar, and I appreciate you saying that so much, because it hits, you know. Does that happen to you a lot?
Yeah, I don't get the, hey, that's happened to me too a lot, because statistically me and Amber's situation is on like 1% of the cases in the world, I guess I can say, specifically in the nation. So I don't get that a lot, but I get the, hey, you gave me hope, hey, you gave me strength, you gave me courage, you gave me extra boldness to like really anchor into what my heart's telling me, even how I know how much suffering some of these situations cause in certain people's lives. Like, you do give me strength and hope and courage. I do kind of get that a lot. There's a couple of times where I have gotten young adult women and younger women that have been unfortunately taken advantage of and have told me, you know, hey, I was going to have my baby anyway, but my parents didn't want, or I didn't know what I was going to do. But like, your story has just gave me greater clarity of what needs to happen in these situations, or what I would have needed to do or will do if this ever happens to me as a young woman. I'm like, awesome.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, it's pretty moving. And then you can't see the guy behind the camera. I've had a couple of powerful moments in New Orleans about people coming up to me. Well, I'll share with you because I think this is cool. Because I had someone come to me and question. He said, man, I have some pro-life, pro-choice friends. Like, what would you say to them if they said this? And I was just like, well, man, I would just, say this or whatever. So what would you say? What would you say if they said this? And I was like, well, I mean, look, and at the end of the day, like the reason we really disagree is that I believe that's a human person. That's a developing human person. And so like I just can't harm that no matter how it was created. So that's really if we really get to the nuts and bolts of it, that's where we miss. I was like, and maybe it's just gonna take that person time to get to that point. And you can't, they still need to be your friend. You still need to hang up, bring them to the cookout, like there's nothing. Maybe it just takes time for that person to really get to that point. I said, but that's really all y'all disagree on based off what you're telling me. I said, and you just make sure you give support for the woman and the baby. Both are important. Understand when I tell you this. Both are important. We want to help both of them.
Yes.
He said, okay. I didn't know this till after. We were doing a testimonial activity where if you like the talk, you can go tell our videographer about it.
Okay.
And so he goes up, and I didn't know this. He goes up to the camera and says, yeah, so Mr. Dustin, I came in here kind of on the fence about, I think, being pro-life. But now after what Mr. Dustin said, I believe it. We need to protect the baby and the mom. So he wasn't asking for a friend. He was asking for himself. I mean, it was wild.
That friend is me. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, that's the first time someone ever did that to me. I was like, what? Yeah, and that was cool. I say it was cool because by the grace of God, I was authentic off the stage. I was vulnerable in a way in which, like, that's a big thing for me, just personally. Like, don't just be who you are on the stage, be who you are off the stage. Like, that's just for me and my own personal convictions and spiritual growth and maturity. So it was awesome to see, like, the testament of that. That was cool.
And it probably for him had to have come in a moment like that, versus, reading it on a social media post or, an argument online, like seeing a person explain it to him in this dignified way.
Yeah, a friendship way.
Exactly.
I think it was cool for him to hear me talk about these things principally on stage, but I think he was like, let's go see though. You know what I mean? Like, let's go talk about real life, Yeah. I was like, okay.
Real life, right. But at the end of the day, that is it. That is it, yeah. And, the level to which we get involved, the level to which we accept the suffering, the level to which we speak out, that I think in some part at least comes from our faith. But at the end of the day, it is a human being. It is a member of our human race. And, if we believe that, there's no justification for taking that human being's future, and it's hard. And you know this because I've seen you sit through testimony at the Capitol, and those are always the worst days. They are so hard because the stories are very hard, and nobody's denying that should never happen. Sexual assault should never happen, and offenders should be held accountable. But I'll never forget the time that, and I won't say his name because I do think
I love
that,
him.
You know who
Thank
I'm talking
you for
about.
your service. We don't have to say your name. You probably won't listen to this, but thank you for your service, my man.
So many times I think he's so close. I think he's so close, and I can tell that he really, and for the audience, we're talking about a specific legislator who, in my experience, started out hardcore against us, no matter what, out of principle. And then as he sat through some of the testimony, you can see him really grappling with it. He struggles with like how I can't kind of reconcile this. And I think in a different academic world, we call that the cognitive dissonance, where you've got this place, but you can't make sense of it, right? It just doesn't add up. And so I really do think that he's trying really, really hard. Then and when he gets that 30 seconds that they give him on the mic. But I remember him saying, and Amber talked about this too last week at the march. She said, in some cultures and even here in the United States, there's a word for people like me, the 1%. We're the devil's spawn or the devil's children. And I remember this particular legislator getting really fired up and saying, I just can't see how we ask that woman to carry the devil's child within her and look at the devil's child in the face. And I remember, as a person born into unfortunate circumstances, that kind of hit me. And I was like, ouch. My circumstances aren't quite the same as yours. But still, ouch, unwanted doesn't mean devil's child.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget, like, I wanted to stand up and clap. You said respectfully, Representative so-and-so, I'm not the devil's child. You said I'm the son of a brave woman and the son of God. And I was just like, bam. And I knew he immediately knew.
Yeah.
He's like, I messed up there.
Yeah. And that's all it was. That was brother fraternal correction.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's so true.
But he was passionate. I understood where
It's
he
so
was
true.
coming from.
And I get the sentiment behind it,
Yeah,
because
I do.
for some women, I think that it probably, and I'm so thankful I haven't had to experience that, but I'm sure that for some women, it is a very hard thing to, relive throughout the pregnancy, or perhaps if you do choose to parent, to relive the moment, and perhaps the child reminds you and that sort of thing. But gosh, I just loved what you said. I thought it was so brave, and I thought it needed to be said.
Yeah, that was very different of me. 'Cause I usually don't single out people, but he singled out me. So I tell people this all the time. My most intense experiences of speaking so far have been in the state capitol.
I can see that.
The first time, and I think Ben didn't. I mean, Ben didn't need to know this, but like that first time I went, and I had to sit and hear the other side. Like I said, I care about my mom.
Yeah.
Like two of the strongest pillars in my life are women. To hear what some of these women went through, definitely so you feel this way. Like I don't even like hate. There's no hate in me in what you believe in, because what you went through. Like my goodness, unreal. And I almost got up. I think I might have told Ben this after. I was like, man, I had to like have an inner dialogue with myself and God in that moment. And I had never had to do that, ever. I've never doubted anything or questioned or was concerned about any stage I've ever been on in my entire life so far, until that moment 3 years ago when you asked me the first lobby and I heard some of these stories. And I said, I'm about to go and it's going to come off as I'm discounting what they went through, but that's not what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? And I was like, so I need to know, first of all, you need to make sure you believe what you believe, right? And I do, but it was like a heat check, almost self check. And then two, I want you to learn how to share this so they know that you don't discount what they went through, but you're just highlighting the reality that sometimes your greatest fear can become your greatest advocate. And that's what happened. My mom's greatest fear, right, her greatest hurt has now, in a way, become one of her greatest advocates, meaning me, right? I've been walking with her through my last 36 years of her life. She's been through divorce. She's been through health issues. She's lost her mom. And I've been there. So, you never know. But I'm not going to discount what you went through, But that was hard to know that, I got to go do that. I got to go in front of you and tell you, yeah, but you still should have had your son and your daughter. That is still, I don't really get to talk about that much internally about that whole experience, but that's a real thing.
I think you put a face to the other side of the story.
Exactly. Yeah, it was an eye-opening thing. Yeah. So when he said that, I was like, chill out. There's hope. There's more hope in here than just pain.
But you're right. It is just justified anger. It
is
justified
anger,
it's misplaced anger, I would say.
Exactly. Let's place it on the perpetrator.
Right.
Exactly. Let's increase our laws when it comes to rape and
and
incest
nobody disagrees. I hate to say nobody, but I think we all agree on that. That should never happen.
I love how I think Louisiana's working on. Maybe you can answer this question. Is it possible that the rights can be taken from the father?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's focus on that. Let's therapy and counseling more affordable and more accessible to women that have gone through this trauma, right? Let's have a village of love for them. You've heard me say this, an abortion will not erase the pain of rape.
No.
The abortion will not erase the shame of incest. A village of love, of therapy, of counseling, and of deep prayer is the only way. And I know this not just because of what I believe and what I've been taught and what I've learned, but my mom would tell you that. My mom would tell you that no matter if I was here or not, she would never have forgotten that night. And I tell people this all the time. No man or woman ever forgets when their humanity and their dignity is robbed from them against their will. just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Another evil act or another egregious act is not gonna wipe that memory from their mind.
Right. It's not like in the movies where they have the little memory blaster.
Yeah. Will Smith's not gonna come up and say,
right.
click.
This is the add-on to the abortion. Now we
Yeah.
erase the pain from it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen.
You know what strikes me too, and I'm not saying that there aren't, and in fact, I know for certain there are women out there who have made a different choice than your mom
100%.
did, and still say that it was necessary for them. But what more of the stories that I hear, and I'm not saying they're more common, I'm just saying more of the stories that I hear are not that they ended up having an abortion, but that if they had gotten pregnant, then they would absolutely 100% have felt that they had to have an abortion to save their own life.
Yeah.
So then it makes me wonder too, thank goodness that wasn't a choice that you had to make.
Yeah.
But I wonder if confronted with actually having to make that decision, if the decision would be the same.
Yeah, I don't know if me and you can answer. I don't know
No.
if me or you can answer that question, but I do know one thing. I have a friend, and about 5 or 6 years ago, he hit me with this saying: "Never say never, never say ever," and never say never, never say ever.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know. I'm
just
very
leave it at
hesitant
that,
to.
you know what I mean?
Very hesitant to.
You
Like
say
I said
never,
a minute
never say
ago,
ever.
nobody. I don't
You know?
even like. I don't like absolutes.
Yeah, you know,
because
like
right. Yeah.
And for the ones that, that have had it and say that it has been beneficial for them. I haven't really met anyone yet like that. I know there are many, maybe hundreds of thousands out there. But I would like, selfishly, let's just observe though everything in your life.
Has it really turned out how you thought?
I would just love to know. I would, because
Yeah.
I've seen the effects of abortion too.
And you know what? I think to my
You know?
what I was trying to get at with that observation is not so much like, oh, but you don't know because you didn't actually go through that, but to illustrate your point that that nothing will erase the pain of the assault and the attack. And we can see that because we see viscerally how much it's affecting them.
Yeah.
And, they didn't even have to get to the point of making that choice, but they're still there. They're still putting themselves out there enough to be telling their story publicly at the state capitol. And it's always very emotional. Yeah. And you can sense how hard and hurtful it was for them. Right. So I think to illustrate your point that no matter whether a pregnancy occurs or not, whether an abortion occurs or not,
people still bring up the moment they were
that stays with you. Yeah. And it's that harm. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. But gosh, well, now I feel like I want to hear your mom's story. I want to hear her side of the story.
Yeah. So I started a podcast about 4 or 5 months ago. So it's a home studio, and she lives in the home where the studio is at. And a bunch of guys or whatever coming in, she's like, looked at me one day, and I prayed for this a lot. She said, I always thought maybe one day I'll get on it.
You're
and
kidding.
I said, come on now. She said, maybe. I said, okay. And I don't know,
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. So if anyone hears it, I'm gonna hear it first.
I imagine it's got to be a hard thing.
It'll be on my but
absolutely, and I'll be the first one listening.
Yeah, and
wow.
Yeah, I've had some prayerful experiences around that in my own intimate time. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what the universe and life has in store for that. And it'd be cool. Cool. One of my guilty, ambitious desires is I just see a stage. I don't know. I just see my mom coming up with a mic, and she's not a big speaker, so I don't see her speaking long, but I see her saying hey guys, y'all don't know me, but I was 25 years old, and I went out one night, and I woke up in a place, and blah, blah, blah. I scheduled the abortion clinic. I scheduled the abortion.
She did.
She had planned to do it.
Okay.
And,
oh my
but
gosh.
decided not to. I always see her saying I plan to have this abortion because I was taken advantage of, unbeknownst to me. Well, however she's gonna say it, I didn't. 9 months later, my son came out, and I'd like to introduce y'all to him. And I would just come out David, blazing with my slingshot and
oh my
destroying
gosh.
all the Goliaths around.
Don't think
spirit.
that's guilty.
And,
I don't think that's a guilty ambition. I think that's God placing that on your heart, because
so cool.
imagine how powerful that would be for so many people to hear that version.
Instead of me, I usually walk people in the first half, wouldn't it be cool for her to walk them into the first half and then come out and close it?
And then just drop that mic.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah. Oh, I hope I hope I'm in the audience on the day that happens. Please invite me. If you know it's going to happen, please invite me. I don't care what the ticket price is.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
right. That'd be cool. I don't know. We'll see.
Wow. I know. Well, it's so
a guilty
cool.
Pleasure, so.
And no, it's not. It's not. I don't think it's a guilty pleasure. I think I think whether it's intuitively or right here up front, know the power that both probably, and I'm projecting on you.
Yeah, of
I
course.
imagine that being able to do this, to do your ministry work, has had a healing, an empowering effect on you. So I'm sure that even if it's just deep down, that it could be very healing and empowering for her, but also for so many people. Yeah. For so many people. And that's, we have to start putting a face. We will not start. You've been doing this.
But I understand. But
we've got to keep putting the face with what so many people are trying to eradicate. Yeah. So, gosh, I thank you so much for being here. Oh, yeah. And we didn't even get to talk about the other side of it. Maybe we'll talk about this another time. Before you came on, we were, of course, talking about, for both of us, how, obviously we're very pro-life, very passionate about saving the babies, saving the moms, helping the moms, and all of that. But there's another end of the spectrum, too. And there's just as much dignity that needs to be acknowledged in our fellow sisters and brothers at the end of life as much as at the beginning of life too. So maybe one day we'll talk about that, because that's my hope, is that one day we will have eradicated the even thought of abortion, of elective abortion. I have to be careful about that too. Words are important. We'll have eradicated that. That won't even be like, who would even think of that? And then our next battlefront will be, okay, now we have to make sure that we're treating people throughout the life spectrum, especially at the end of life, at all the vulnerable stages, with the same dignity.
Post childbirth and whatnot, like just dignity through the whole life.
The whole life,
Because I think as modern technology continues to increase, there's going to be probably, an increase in trying to alleviate suffering.
Yeah.
And prolonged caretaking for the sake of efficiency and balance of life, and all these things.
It's pretty terrifying to me, actually. Yeah. No, you're right. And I encourage all of my former students who are kind of like into the sciences, but also the religious aspect, but just like the moral and legal aspects, like put all that together and study bioethics, because we're going to need it.
Oh, yeah.
We need it now, but we're going to need people who can speak on the ethical, not can we do this, but should we? Yeah. Are we going in a good place if we can?
In 40 or 50 years, there's going to be probably a serious attack on like bioengineering, genetics, and I want a baby with blue eyes, or I don't want a baby with this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to let a baby survive if we'll better project and interject certain type of genetical codes.
Oh, I don't think it's 40 to 50 years away. I think it's more like 4 to 5.
Yeah.
If not already available in
I think
some
it's
capacities.
In the dark web with the right type of money. You probably already have access to that.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you to find and watch this movie, and I'm going to challenge myself to do it too. It's called Gattaca. I think it's Gattaca. It's Gattika, I think. And I learned about it in law school in a bioethics class, but have never seen it. It's never come up on my streaming services, so I've got to find it. I've got to find it. But I think it hits on. I think it was before its time, is what I understand, and now we're kind of living on the cusp of some of the things that it was kind of foretelling. So yeah.
I'm going to say something that's kind of like funny about some of that stuff. So I was reading a book about with the ethics and all that stuff, but then it talked about actually I'm not going to.
Okay.
Started thinking about it.
Save it for the next one,
Yeah, next one,
or
next
maybe
one
never.
off camera.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I
You're
can't
good.
wait. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
it's all
so
good.
glad you were here. And, I just want to encourage everyone, obviously you have such a great pro-life testimony, but also just such a great faith testimony as well. And I know that whether in spreading the love and word of God, or in encouraging and educating people on why we must remain and be pro-life, you are flourishing and having such an impact on so many people. Yeah. And so for everybody listening, Dustin has a podcast as well, and it's great. Always has amazing speakers on, and it's called God Made Self-Driven, right?
It's called the God Made Self-Driven podcast.
That's right.
Yep.
I thought so too. I usually it just kind of like comes up in my queue, so I don't always see the image, but yeah. Okay. So check that out. And yeah, we're so blessed here in Louisiana to have so many people who have great testimonies, but are also willing to share them. And that's how we do it, And
I just appreciate y'all. It's been a pleasure getting to meet you 3-4 years ago, meeting y'all video guy, more recently, but then also, Ben. I started with Krista Corbella, who's now in California doing pro-life work.
Wow.
And,
okay.
But like Ben's been a brother to me for sure, educated me on all things political and non-political and in the realm of like, pro-life and stuff like that. So he's been a great LA Right to Life has been huge for me, just as a resource of like partnership and resources and tools for like knowledge and wisdom. So I just want to shout y'all out for sure. And if you need anything, testimonies, anything like that, reach out to me, godmadeselfdriven.org. My email, phone number is there.
You talk to like youth groups, church youth groups,
it's anything.
often.
University, youth groups, businesses. It's all the things in a sense. That's kind of where my ministry is starting to head.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fundamentally Catholic, but like don't let that scare you.
Yeah. Well, I've worked with all. So is the world.
It's all good.
Yeah. Wow, awesome. That's great. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here.
No, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Got a lot going on. Yeah. So everybody, thanks again for listening. Check out Dustin's podcast, the God Made Self-Driven podcast. And if you have a need in your business, in your church youth group, or just a group of young people that need to hear a positive, uplifting message, and I'm sure that on all the spectrum of the troubles that our young people are going through today, or our adults, as we, all encounter these difficulties in our daily lives too, check them out. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. See you next time.